Hey, Toka, I really appreciate you coming here. I brought you here for this interview because I know you're a leading expert in everything to do with leadership. So, how long have you been in this field? How long have you been teaching people, explaining about this whole leadership thing?
Um, well, I've been learning a lot about personal development, things related to mindfulness, personal growth, kind of how to vision your life for a long time, probably for most of my life. I studied philosophy in college and I worked in the music business for a long time in various support roles, helping as an executive assistant, as a guitar tech to successful musicians. So I've been working alongside in a support position with successful people for a long time and really seeing what it takes to be a really good leader. And then specifically as an executive coach, I've been working for the last 3 years working with successful people, unconventional leaders, people who have some influence, and helping them really develop the personal traits, characteristics, and behaviors they need to be successful leaders. So, 3 years I've been helping people one on one, but I've really been learning about it for a long time.
Leadership, it's kind of a very abstract topic. How do you define that? How do you define leadership?
I guess I don't really think of it as abstract at all. I guess it can be, but it really is your ability to influence and persuade people to follow you. That's what leadership's all about, right? So, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can use fear to persuade people. You can use, um, money to persuade people. You can use your personal charisma and charm. But it's leadership is all about using the skills and abilities you have to inspire other people to follow you. Um, and it starts with really self leadership, how you lead your own life. If you can inspire yourself to follow your own aspirations and habits, then you can learn to inspire others. Um, Things change a little bit when you go from inside to outside, but it really starts with your ability to lead yourself down the pathway that you want to go, and then you can then take that same level of technique and inspiration and share it with others and get them to follow you.
So that's fascinating. You see, in my industry, I work in construction, and many times I see it's interesting because it's kind of an art form. It's very much not a commodity. Every type of construction specialty, whether it's plumbing or electric or whatever it is, it takes a lot of specialized knowledge. And usually, what you hear from the professionals are, "I can't find any good workers. Like all the workers, they're horrible." And people either just work by themselves for many many years and just like that's the level they stay at, or they try to grow by taking on more workers, and many times you see them in like a whirlwind of stress and just very very difficult day-to-day experience. So how do you see that that could relate to people in construction?
Well, I think that a couple things happen when you look at construction jobs, and there's actually a similar thing. My grandfather owns a construction company in Florida, and my uncle runs it now. And you see in construction, one of the things you also see in the music business, which is that people tend to hire very low wage people to start off with, and it makes sense, right? There's not the margins are kind of thin. You don't want to hire people. The downside to hiring people when you don't pay them a lot of money is that they tend not to be very motivated to be engaged, right? They're not the kinds of people who are really willing to follow. And so one thing you have to look at the kind of what you're getting for your money, right? If you don't pay someone very much money, you're probably not going to get a very motivated worker. You might get lucky, you might find someone who's really motivated, but it's hard. So part of it is looking at what is the investment that you're putting into hiring workers. And if you're putting an investment to hire a worker just because you need them to move some bricks for you, then you don't have to pay them a lot of money. But if you really want to have someone be able to duplicate what you're doing to really multiply your effort, you need to think of that person as a real investment, as an apprentice, and invest in them and the amount of money you're willing to pay them. So that's the first part. The second thing is the skill set that you need to be a craftsman, whether it's an electrician or a plumber, is different than the skill set you need to teach other people. So some people are good teachers and some people aren't. So if you want to have really great workers, you need to learn this aspect of how to lead other people, understand what is motivating people, really understand what's motivating people. And I hear a lot from people in the older generation, well, when I was young, you just worked hard and that's great. I get that, right? Millennials are lazy, we're entitled to everything. I get it. It's just different. The world in which you grew up was different than the world in which they grew up. The world in which a lot of people in the baby generation grew up, they really lived in a world in which if you worked hard and applied yourself, you could get ahead. Realistically now, millennials have been born into a world in which that is not necessarily true. If you want to lead millennials successfully, you have to understand what motivates them. And what motivates them is different than what motivates you. So if you use the same arguments that you would use on yourself when you were 20, that's not going to work because the world is different and those people are different. You have to understand what motivates them and what will get them excited. And really understand the person that you're hiring, get to know that person you're hiring, understand what motivates them, and then use that knowledge of their motivation, what their drive is, to help them be successful. That's really the key. That's one of the hardest things about leadership is to be a great leader. You must understand the people you're going to lead. And whenever I hear people complain about it's hard to find good workers, I really look at them and like, well, what did you do to hire that worker? What was the process you went through? And 9 times out of 10, they did not take the time to really understand what was motivating that person, who that person was, why they wanted to get into the business, what was their hope, what was their dream. If you take the time to hire people who are like that, spend time with them, you're going to have a much better time leading them. It's not perfect. Some people are not going to, be good for you. But if you talk to someone and find out what motivates them, you can really figure out how to lead them much better.
So what you're saying is, if I want good workers, then I have to invest that effort in finding the right workers, investing in them financially, investing the time to understand what motivates them, and actually go through the process of going through those motions of motivating them. It's not just you find them on the shelf ready to work for you, all motivated and ready to go.
Yeah.